By noon, they stopped temporarily by the river. A few of them skillfully used stones to set up a temporary stove, while others gathered firewood. Ayama retrieved a large pot from the pile of supplies and set it on the stove, lighting a fire underneath. They drew water from the river, opened up the previously killed large cat, and cut off the meatiest parts to cook in the pot. Some used wooden sticks to skewer the meat and roast it over the fire. When the cat's belly was split open, Lu Xinrui noticed its insides looked as if they had been processed through a juicer, with its organs turned into a mushy mess. That's the captain's ability, wave conduction, Bloodblade explained. He controlled the shock wave from the impact, directing it into the cat's belly, shredding its internal organs into pieces. That's why it couldn't survive. If you opened its head, you'd find its brain turned into a red and white slurry. Bloodblade's straightforward description made Lu Xinrui slightly nauseous as she imagined the scene. No wonder they were so certain the cat was dead. Wave conduction was indeed a terrifying ability. No matter how thick the defense, being hit by such a power was almost a guaranteed death. If the captain is that powerful, shouldn't the hunting team be very safe? Lu Xinrui asked. Bloodblade scoffed, not really. There are plenty of these cats in the forest. Luckily, they're solitary creatures. If they lived in groups, well, I wouldn't even dare enter the forest, Lu Xinrui understood. The stone axe looked heavy, and Ayama could use it because his mutation gave him immense strength. He could lift objects up to 50 times his body weight without much issue. Big Bear, though physically larger than Ayama, didn't have comparable strength. For Ayama, the stone axe was no burden, but for Big Bear, it was a different story. This limited Big Bear's ability to attack quickly and made him prone to creating openings in his defenses. Like today, if it weren't for the team members slashing the cat's belly, causing it pain and disrupting its attack, it would have been difficult for Big Bear to land a killing blow. The cat was clearly much more agile than any of them. Big Bear's wave conduction was ineffective through the air. He had to make contact for it to work. Though he could single-handedly dominate a fight, he would be overwhelmed if a group of creatures attacked him one after another. In the wild, the hunting team had to make do with what they had, and Lu Xinrui wouldn't be picky. The lunch of grilled meat and soup had a strong gamey taste, and the meat wasn't very palatable. Carnivorous animals' meat tended to be a bit sour, which might be why the hunting team preferred to hunt large herbivores. After lunch, Ayama threw their supplies onto the raft and, along with a few others, pulled on a vine rope attached to the raft, dragging it along the river like a barge. This raft is specifically for carrying our spoils, Bloodblade explained, making things clearer for Lu Xinrui. Even Ayama, with his great strength, couldn't endlessly carry heavy loads. Dragging game for short distances was one thing, but carrying a large beast's body from the hunting plains back to camp would be impossible without rest. This river connected to the water source at their camp, but the section between here and the camp was filled with shallows and rapids, making it impossible for the raft to pass. Traveling upstream along this river would bring them to their hunting plains. Without sturdy fabric for sails and a shortage of animal hides, they had to pull the raft manually. The journey upstream would take about 2 days. Once they reached the plains and secured enough game, they could ride the raft downstream. The return trip would be much faster, taking less than half a day to get back to this spot. Beyond this point, the river had more shallows and rapids, so they'd have to stash the raft and manually carry their spoils back to camp, a time when they were most vulnerable to attacks. Due to the change in travel method, their formation shifted to a semicircle along the river, with Ayama in the center and the others guarding the surroundings. Though the riverside required no defense, it didn't mean the danger was reduced. Just as humans needed water to survive, so did animals. Many creatures came to the river to drink, increasing the likelihood of encounters compared to the morning. Besides, in the forest, they could dodge attacks. But now, to protect Ayama, they had limited space to evade. Ayama couldn't let go of the vine rope, otherwise, the current would sweep the raft away. The 8-meter-wide raft looked large but was small compared to the broad river. In just 2 hours, they encountered several waves of attacking beasts. However, these solitary animals were easily dispatched without any injuries. Ayama selected the best meat and added it to the raft for dinner. Lu Xinrui still had no chance to prove herself. Despite the harder journey, Big Bear announced a break. She took out her water bottle, drank a few sips, and discreetly observed the others. No one was watching her. She quickly slipped away. "Where are you going? Why are you sneaking around?" Lu Xinrui jumped, caught by Bloodblade. Perhaps because she was his apprentice, Bloodblade felt responsible for her safety. Though he didn't constantly watch her, his extraordinary senses meant he noticed any of her movements immediately. There was no truly safe place here. Leaving the group alone meant increased danger. Lu Xinrui stammered. Seeing his insistent look, she confessed, "Nature calls." Normally, she wouldn't be so shy, but in a team full of men, she felt a bit self-conscious. Bloodblade hesitated, then waved her off. "Go ahead, be careful." Lu Xinrui nodded and quickly disappeared into the forest. She marked her path with the white ointment on nearby tree trunks, moving further than she initially planned. After the earlier encounter, she was reminded of Bloodblade's extraordinary sensory abilities during training. His heightened senses included touch and hearing, making him incredibly aware of his surroundings. Hawkeye's enhanced vision allowed him to see great distances, even in the dark. Bloodblade's senses, though not as far-reaching, were extremely acute within a certain range. Even a sneak attack from behind wouldn't escape his notice due to the slightest sound or air movement. This ability was excellent for sensing danger in the forest. They managed to handle animal attacks easily because Bloodblade often sensed them in advance. However, now, his ability was a nuisance. If she stayed too close, he might sense her every movement. Despite the risk of an attack, her embarrassment won out. Relieved, Lu Xinrui started back, following the white marks on the trees. After a short distance, something felt off. It was the sensation of being watched. Could it be bad luck? The black spots granted everyone a kind of primal intuition, although most weren't as keen as Bloodblade's. Walking a few more anxious steps, Lu Xinrui confirmed her suspicion. Something was indeed stalking her. She was halfway back, almost reaching the rest area. The pressure of being targeted grew. Lu Xinrui made a snap decision, screamed for help, then bolted forward with all her might. The predator wouldn't let its prey escape so easily. As she screamed, it charged. "No, it's faster than me." In a flash, the creature closed the distance. It would catch her in a few more steps. Lu Xinrui drew her bow knife while running, then suddenly turned to face the approaching beast. It was another large cat, similar to the one from the morning but slightly smaller with shorter fangs. She didn't know that animals' sense of smell was far more sensitive than humans. The strongest scent, of course, came from waste. Many animals marked their territory with urine for this reason. This cat had come because it smelled an intruder's scent in its territory. Seeing the intruder turn to fight, it showed no fear and leapt at Lu Xinrui aggressively.